1 minute after 10 on this Friday. Ooh, what a long week. Don't you guys feel it as well? Has anyone left their house all week? Anyone have that cabin fever yet? Some have had to venture out. We know the kids haven't. One of those snowed in weeks. That's why we went on that scale of 10 to 10 for cabin fever. We knew that for some, you're going to be just kind of stuck dealing with the kids or dealing with the fact that you just don't have the ability to get through all the snow and ice if your neighborhood is off the main circuit there for sure. All right, several, stuck all week. Yikes. Okay, well, I've got a mix of good news and bad news here today on this edition of Snow Talk. Hope you guys are well. I'm Wave Meteorologist Brian Good. Welcome to today's version of it on this 30th day here of January 2026. This is another one of those years, isn't it? That's just going to just fly by. We already know. We're already through January. I mean, it's about time now to get an idea out to put on the patio for the spring and summer and pick out your derby outfits and then 4th of July and then figure out what you want to be for Halloween and where you're going to eat Thanksgiving and I'll go to Friendsgiving if you're going to go there and then start Christmas shopping if you haven't by that point and then figure out your vacation plans and plan your New Year's Eve. Trust me, it's going to start happening real fast. Moves quickly. Okay, guys, I hope you are well. We do have a lot to cover here today because the board continues to stay very, very active over the next few weeks. So let's start with that. Fair enough? And we got the flurries and light snow out there now. The snow band in central Kentucky, we're going to cover that. We have more light snow showers and flurries for tomorrow that will be much more widespread. So if you got mist on the snow today, you have a chance to have a snow globe out your window tomorrow. Late Tuesday into Wednesday, it remains a setup to watch. This one's got more of a kick to it, not only in dynamics, but in moisture. So it gets interesting here. And then at the end of the week, it's more of a boundary than it is an organized system, but it may have some mixed potential. But another cold blast arrives next weekend, so that will be certainly snow at some point into Friday night. And then after that, pretty far out, but we get into a little bit more of a zonal flow. It looks like it may be setting up a little more of a east-west flow on some of these storms, which is good and bad. But it does introduce more moisture. Anytime I see that signal for more moisture, I usually flag them as setups to watch. If it's mainly Arctic setups, I usually just list what they are. But if they have a southerly component, that's the difference on why I label them the way I do. So that should get your attention too, the setup to watch, because if there's any boom on any of them, or bust, but mainly boom, those are the ones to watch there. Fair enough. All right, let's get you a couple shots here. First off, they have the okay, do temperatures first. We'll do that first. All right, 16 here in Louisville now. Still got single digits. Look at Seymour, 5 right now. 19 in E-Town. Everyone's below freezing, way below freezing. Factor in the wind. The wind's back again. So now we got a wind chill of 6 in Louisville, 2 below zero in Jeffersonville, 4 below zero in New Bedford. And still the sensors are not unfrozen for the Kentucky Mesonet sites in this area of Kentucky. So we cannot get a wind chill value for you guys. Hopefully you'll be able to thaw soon and get those back up and working. You don't want to break that and force it. So you want it to melt as naturally as you can there. So it's going to take a few more days. Sorry, Southern Kentucky, but I'm sure it's cold. I mean, it's going to be cold everywhere, obviously. Here is a live look right now, I believe, into E-Town. All right, looks a lot better than what it did. 31W there got covered again in snow into E-Town with the snow showers this morning. The parking lots got covered as well. Where's my pen? Oh, there it is. That all got covered, but you can see that now as soon as it's over with, the treatment does its thing, takes back over. And yeah, a little bit of hint of sun as well, which will help. I don't know if we're going to see a lot of sun today. We're going to get some peekaboo sunshine until about, I would say, 3 o'clock. And then we'll go back to overcast again by the afternoon. So the next 2 to 3 hours, if you did get some snow, I'm hoping some of these sun rays will just rapidly get your roads back and improving. And maybe what it looked like before this even arrived, because it's not a big snow, relatively narrow band. Some of your reports, this is from Tiffany. Take this full screen for you, Tiffany. Just sent this in over into Irvington, Kentucky, Breckenridge County. Yeah, she had the whole path cleared off last night, and then boom, filled back in. That looks to be about a quarter, maybe a half inch. From what I can tell, though, Tiffany, I can't tell from an obvious photo, but that's, if I had to guess, that's what I would say, about a quarter to half inch. This sent in from Beth over in Springfield, Kentucky, and that was less than an hour ago. The cars were completely cleared off last night, and there you go, got the snow globe effect recovered once more. So for those of you in Louisville that were like, ooh, maybe will you be on the edge of this? Well, remember what our discussion was all week. These little bands of snow tend to go more south than north in this scenario. So this wasn't a shocker at all that it was a central and southern Kentucky thing. Louisville is always very questionable whether or not we could be in it. But Parkways, yeah, that stood out like a sore thumb. So, and you're still getting some lighter snow, but it's over with in Bardstown and E-Town. It's over with now, so you're improving. It still hasn't really fully arrived in Columbia, just now getting there, losing a little bit of gas. And it's already doing its lovely little tilt as it's getting ready to be in response to the winter storm for the southeast corner of the country. So as it's beginning now to have its little tilted angle, becoming a little bit more of a half moon shape arcing here of the snow band, that's going to help induce the low pressure that will soon develop from the Gulf into areas of the Carolinas. And that's going to allow for this band of snow. And it will pinwheel in the area near, say, Charleston, Savannah. It'll pinwheel for a while just off the coast. As it does so, there will be a residency time, if you will. The longest it will spend over land will roughly be in the Piedmont area of North Carolina and the Midlands of South Carolina. That's a spot where it'll snow the longest. And that's where they could easily get certainly over a half a foot, if not more, of snow. And at the very end of the system, as it pulls away, we should see it all go back to snow for Charleston and Myrtle Beach. So Myrtle Beach's snow really would be Saturday night. So they'll be at the very end of this. But still pretty remarkable to get a snowpack solidly here, all the way from the beaches to the mountains in that area. Angela, how you doing, Angela? Matthews and Charlotte bracing for the snowstorm. Yeah, I mean, they actually do fairly well in Charlotte and taking care of this. They've had some big events over the years. It's more of the away from the Midlands. You get into the coastal areas, not so much. But they do have excellent power company relief just because of hurricanes. So their utility crews are incredible in restoring power. So that's in your favor in those areas. Some of you may be watching from there. If you are, let me know. But that is in your favor. Just not exactly working in cold conditions and snow. Probably not used to that, but still, they have got a fairly widespread crew that are very proficient on getting things done. So I don't think you'll have too many things to worry about in the Carolinas compared to, say, Nashville. What, Nashville? Can you believe that? There's still so many people without power in Nashville with the ice storm. Unreal. I mean, I think it's like 100,000, something like that, still without power in Nashville. Ice storms are the worst. They're just the worst. Hopefully we can get this winter without dealing with one. So far, so good. I know our southern counties had a borderline ice storm. You're on the baby version of an ice storm, if you will. But you don't want the big ones that shut you down for weeks and weeks and damage the grid for a long time. We don't want that. Snow's fun. Ice, not so much. Anyway, cold weather alerts. Boy, they are extensive. And these are all different pretty colors, right? They got advisories. You got your extreme cold weather watch. You got your extreme cold weather warning. So there's different shades of all this. Either way, if you see a color of any type, it just means that that particular area is unusually cold. And that's sure enough is what's happening all over the eastern seaboard, the deep south, Florida panhandle. Oh, and speaking of Florida, it does include all the way down to just north of Fort Lauderdale. An extreme cold weather watch is an effect that may get changed today for the upcoming weekend. But Disney World is also under the extreme cold weather watch. Oh, man, that's tough. When you plan a whole vacation out to get to Disney and then you got to wear a parka. But if it's a Disney parka, then, hey, there you go. You got something unique. Probably not many people have those. So there's always a plus side. Plus, I'm sure they put everybody into the Magic Kingdom, right? That is a real castle, right? All right. So anyway, we are going to be dealing with the headlines of that system. I will say that the second piece to that storyline for us is going to be the cold Arctic air. Already starting to show up the snow bands into the Great Lakes. This will be our snow tomorrow. And two ways we can really get this. Some of this will be a lake effect, and some of this will be the wind inducing some snow showers off the deeper snowpack of Indiana. So not exactly lake effect snow, but land effect snow may develop off that snowpack and induce some snow showers and flurries on the southern edges where it gets to taper down to lower amounts, if hardly any, which would include much of us. So I think the radar will light up tomorrow. So again, if you were missed out on the snow with this current round, the band in southern Kentucky, just about everyone watching has a good chance to have light snow falling at some point throughout the day. All right. So let me cover, before I get into our short term, want to mention about next week, because I want to show you the maps on this, and I want you to remember what I'm about to show you here. We are facing another decent storm out here in the Pacific, and we got energy here across the Baja Peninsula. Oh, Baja, remember that? Sounds awfully familiar. Still have some emotional reaction to that. Anyway, there is a piece of energy that's about right here on the southern side of that low. That will break off as it moves into Oregon and Seattle, briefly into Canada. Then it'll drop straight down into Missouri. And then it should be in Missouri, I would say, by Monday evening. At the same time, piece of the Baja Peninsula is going to break free, feed along the very weak subtropical jet, but it's apparent, and feed into Texas and arrive roughly into northern Louisiana and Arkansas near Monday. Do you know where I'm going with this? Once again, we have another handshake of these two features, or do we just deal with one? Which one would be the Clipper idea, a colder idea? If we deal with just the southern piece, it may actually be warming up enough to, it may be a mix, and maybe some rain in some part of the area, but it would be a warmer flow. Right now, there's decent support on there being a phasing again somewhere in the Ohio Valley region. As always the case, when they phase will kind of matter in the finer details. I'm already exhausted talking about it. I don't want this again. This one's different than the one we just went through, so don't panic. This is not a 34 states wide winter storm. It's very compact, actually, but it's going to do the handshake and get it tucked together in our region. And that's the best I can say for right now. Again, we'll come back around to that and show you where we stand on it. I can assure you the maps will keep changing, but as always, we discuss things in the long term on the blog every day, right? So here's the current setup of the band of snow in southern Kentucky, again, doing its pivot to become the Carolina storm. Meanwhile, watch the snow into Indiana. It'll begin to break out more and more, feeding into snow showers. And these actually, we have like a dusting out, but it wouldn't surprise me. Some of you could get, quarter inch, half inch of snow tomorrow in some places. Now, the only thing that would may prevent that, it'll be a lot windier than it even has been today. So it will be a windy, very cold and blustery day. So it's going to be a little hard to capture that full quarter to half inch. It'll just blow off the road or wherever the case may be. But no doubt it will just add to some slick spots. So just be careful. Already we've got the wind chills, as you're about to see, are already bitterly cold, dangerously cold. So that will keep a lot of people in anyway. But again, if you love that cozy fireplace moment, watching TV and look out the window and you see snowflakes flying out the window, some of you love that scene. I do. That's how I would describe tomorrow. So cozy kind of snow, just not cozy outside. So if you don't have to go outside, don't. What'd you say there, Jerry? No handshaking allowed. We don't need friendship between fronts. That's right. We're always about unity, right? And in this case, like, no, and be enemies. Don't talk to each other. Turn the other way. Talk to the hand. People still say that. Talk to the hand. Yeah, I'm a boomer. But we got a lot of boomers on here. We got some Gen Z, right? A lot of Gen X, some boomers, a lot of millennials. I've seen all your names, and by the way you comment, I can tell. Usually, I can tell what generation you're in. How you talk on here on the chat. Okay. So anyway, those will linger until about Saturday afternoon, then fade out. Now, the interesting sign here is for Saturday night and Sunday, there's a little bit of a signal again in that freezing fog. It keeps showing up in the data. It hasn't really been a huge issue because dew points have been so low right off. There's so much evaporation coming off of the snowpack that's lowering the dew point enough to where fog is having a tough time and generating. So the model keeps hinting at it, but it may just be stratus clouds that form off the ground, not really fog. Can't really tell until we get a little bit closer, but anyway, if you're wondering why that all filled back in suddenly there, that's the reason why. Sunday looks sunny. I think overall Sunday will be a lot better to get around. If you have errands you need to run, we'll be back in the 20s again. Wind chills will not be as brutal, although they could still be certainly about 5 below zero in the morning. So if you're going to services Sunday morning, it's going to steam. Yeah, wind chills will be cold. Below zero for sure Sunday morning. But Sunday, midday and afternoon, we'll see a nice improvement. The wind will relax a bit more, and we'll get some blue sky. Very bright. Make sure to keep the sunglasses handy. That sun that gets reflected off of the snowpack, it can really hurt your eyes, especially if you have migraine issues. So keep the shades in the car and protect your eyes because it can be damaging. It's worse than having it at sunset in your face and using your visor. This is actually more of an impact. It's all everywhere you look. It's just bright. You know what I'm talking about if you've paid attention on that before. Okay, so what about the next snow chance? Well, that looks to be a very light setup. This one's really just teetered out here in the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 runs. Most of the moisture staying closer to the core low in Wisconsin. So the southern part just keeps struggling to hold on to a saturated profile. This far south, I'm not going to rule out that we can get flurries out of this, but it's not looking impressive for Monday. So for Groundhog Day, I don't see any major worries there. Maybe some festive flakes for Groundhog Day, if that makes sense. Okay, so why is this in here? Did I mean to put this in here? I did not mean to put this in here, so let's skip it. It's the same thing you saw, just closer up. But you guys know what's up. Here's a sample of the wind chills for Saturday morning. This is where we get into, right before we get into the snow globe effect. 3 below zero Louisville, 10 to 12 below in several areas, especially, again, Indiana. But now that some of you have gotten a little bit of a snowpack freshened up there in central Kentucky, yeah, you have a good chance to go below zero. So just stay warm. Okay, let's get into the long range here. All right, here's the Euro. Of course, this is the really cold air. You see there, the what we call the Barney effect for you millennials and maybe Gen X probably remembers Barney too. Anyway, I can have these tangents. There's the winter storm in the East Coast. Okay, we talked about that. All right, there are the snow flurries. Yeah, diving down on Saturday. We got that covered. I'm just checking off my boxes here. Make sure I don't skip anything. Here comes the wave, the little clipper wave wannabe. for Monday. Euro has a little bit of a kick to it. I think it still flurries. Yeah, there's just not much on the dynamic side and moisture side to really make this thing impressive. So we'll leave that alone. All right, but now remember, at this point, we've got the piece that's coming in. You can see a hint of it behind the word Euro. We've got a piece that is already arriving on the northern side that wrapped around Seattle. And now we're getting the piece that's going to be coming in for the Baja area. So now this is where things get a little more interesting. So let's advance this. Here comes that piece, drops down, straight down. Again, very much a clipper look, but it's getting fed that moisture from the Baja area. But this is the core of it that drops in the northern branch. So this is Tuesday evening. Very compact system. You can tell it's already got a precip type issue here. The blue line's going right along 64, indicating a warm nose. Oh boy, don't y'all love warm noses? Warm nose, we get involved. Now, I'm a little suspect of that just because the models have been way off. When we update the forecast in the Wave Weather app, there's a default option that we can hit where our data that comes together indicates a number. Most of the time, it does fairly well, and especially in very high pressure scenario, especially in the summertime. There's not a huge difference. But in these scenarios that we've noticed, it has been nearly 10 to 12 degrees off. If I were to click it right now, it would want to push our high today of probably 38. Well, we know that's going to happen because the snowpack and models just don't capture that. So we have to constantly adjust down. And in some cases, some of even the long-term models are not really grasping the depth of cold air correctly. So while we see the rain snow line over us, the exact thermal profile here is probably going to look different when we get closer. We have to have high res. Sorry, got to have res for that kind of scenario. So I'm just giving you the overall setup. We're not ready to get into specifics. Sorry about that. I know you want that, but this is a few days away. Got to have that high res so I can see that grid. Remember, the grid that I need to see is even on a tighter range here is still a good 2.5 counties of a margin of error off on some of the finer detail. This is roughly about 70 miles roughly on some of these grids off on its course and detail this far out. So again, I can't get specific for that obvious reason. So that's my disclaimer. You guys are aware of that if you've been here for a while, and you have. So that's where we are with this. But we are in a good spot to have another entry setup here that will continue. The low deepens. Now here's the handshake that fully happens. It starts to become phased. GFS, I will say, phases a little faster, a little west of 65, Euro near or just east of 65. Those finer details will matter, obviously, on the rate and where we end up having any dividing line, but certainly it will matter on whether or not we end up with a more impactful snow or just a light snow. So that's why it is a setup to watch. This would be for Tuesday night, Wednesday. That's about all I can say for now. But look at that. Could the Carolinas get another little snow out of this? Man, who'd thought? Carolinas is the new Fargo. Maybe I should go to the Carolinas. I don't know. Anyway, but we may get something exciting here. I mean, it's a good track setup for it. There's such a big block here into Eastern Canada and the Northern Atlantic that these systems, they keep showing signs that want to cut north. There's no way they can cut north. There's nothing there. The flow is too strong to push them to the southeast, into the Carolinas and out to the Atlantic. I mean, that's the pattern we're in. So anytime we see a system and then models try to turn it, I'm like, that's got to be a little fishy there. There may be some trend slightly north or south. Yeah, that's fair. But a full on, let's go take this thing all the way into Lakes Superior here. That's not going to happen. There's just no room for it. But anyway, once that passes, we do have a chance to somewhat moderate at the end of next week. However, another Arctic blast is showing up next weekend, and that will be I would call this a big daddy clipper. That's a big daddy clipper. It'll be moving in across the Great Lakes, maybe a little bit of rain or mix at the beginning, but it's going to be very short-lived. Cold air will rush in, a lot of wind, and this will be another snow globe, a lot of snow showers. But anything substantial on this, it would have to track way west than where it is. And this has been mainly an east-based system for a while in the data, and it's fair. I think it's positioned well from what I can tell. It matches the pattern, so that would be more of an issue for Ohio into Pennsylvania. We would just get the backlash, a lot of snow showers on the Arctic boundary that moves in. So Friday night especially will be much more of a snow globe effect again with another light coating of snow as we send those wind chills back down below zero. What is it with Saturdays? The weekends are just stuck in a rut. That would be the third weekend of maybe having some type of cold weather alert and snow issues. It's going to be hard to shake that pattern for a while. Okay, that moves out, and that's where we stop for now. Let me show you the matrix on that. Go full screen. Alrighty. Here is the, well, this is today's snow in southern Kentucky, so it's still on the chart, so we have to kind of ignore that. Here is Saturday snow. All right. I mean, that's not bad. That's why I say, maybe a quarter of an inch that'll blow around everywhere, but a quarter inch, that's fair. That's fair tomorrow. Monday, yep. See, not looking great. Here is Tuesday night and Wednesday. That one has more of the kick to it, more moisture. That was what we talked about yesterday. So it's got a little more of a oomph to it, right? All right, fair. And then we get into the Friday wave that arrives with snow showers Friday night. And then after that, we get toward the period that is on the snowboard toward Valentine's Day or maybe just before it. That does look interesting, but it's too early to get into specifics. So needless to say, we're going to be dealing with at least threats of wintry weather, at least through Valentine's Day. You may get above freezing during this time. That is reachable, especially in this particular gap right here, the one at the very end before Valentine's Day. We could get above freezing, yes. But I'm talking like, 37, maybe 36. I mean, it'll feel like a heat wave, but it won't, it'll allow for some melting, but not rapid melting. Then we get into the matrix for the long term, but before I get to that, any questions I can answer before I get into the outlook into March? Hello, Wavy. Snow and Bowling Green. I'm glad I get 40 hours Monday and just out. Yeah, Sean's been out there taking care of our roads, guys. So hats off to Sean. Everyone give claps, smiley faces to Sean for helping us out. I know it's tough, frustrating too, when it's just nonstop and you keep getting more systems to keep getting added onto the mix. It's like, so what makes winter seem forever and ever. Kathy, I'm ready for the 80s. Well, me too. I hope you mean the music because the actual number, that'll probably be after Derby. It's going to take a while. Talk to the hand. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Pat. Appreciate that. All right, let me get into, hold on one second. Aaron, March looks still likely for snow. Yes and no. I think March is going to be a very dynamic month where we get all the ideas thrown at us, where we're going to get some cold aspects and some warm weather, and we get into the thunderstorm zone. So March does look like to be a kind of a wild month where we begin to change the narrative once again, as we typically do in spring, right? But a little bit more pronounced this year. Once again, here is the matrix. I'll show you. This is the long-term one that goes through mid-March. Can you believe that? Mid-March. We already got data on that. But that signal is loud. There's a couple waves that stand out. Again, once the color, each ensemble line, once the colors are lit up on the map, it stays that color unless another storm hits to change it and make it more intense. So what you look for on here is where do the colors see ramping up from gray to blue then pink. And when you look here, there's definitely the setup for next week is showing up. Excuse me. There's one that is showing up for near Valentine's Day. Let's see. Yeah, there's definitely a hint here around 20th of February and maybe 2 into the first week of March. So still several signals that are showing that we get more wintry weather into March, at least on the long range Euro. Just one model's idea. Well, actually, it's one model, but 50 ideas of that model. So that's still impressive. What about temperature? Well, here's a map for you all. This is the temperature compared to normal for March 14th. Yeah, evening of March 14th. Now, it's showing a lot of blue over much of the country. Notice it's a little more zonal look to it. A lot of blue here. And before you panic, though, got to keep in mind, this is showing compared to average. And that's important to note because right now our average temperature at this time of the year is in the 40s. And we're running way below it, right? So sometimes our maps, like you saw with the Barney map, was dramatic, showing the purple because it's way off the mark, as you know. Now it's showing some blues here, in some cases darker blues into mid-March, but our average high at that point will be in the mid-50s. So Cooler than normal could easily just be 40. Doesn't mean we're going to be 15 in March. It just means we'll be cooler than average. So it could still mean rain. It could also mean wintry weather, yes, but it may just mean a miserable rain scenario if this is right. So it doesn't necessarily always mean snow. So to make sure I'm clarifying that we have a rapid increase in our averages in the month of March. That's why technically that's what we call March. March 1st is the first day of meteorological spring because the averages soar on a daily basis starting March 1st. So meteorologists consider March 1st spring instead of the astronomical date. I hope that makes sense. All right, let me get into the 10-day. Now, stop rambling again. Here we go. Looking at 23 today. Yeah, colder. And then we get into 4 tonight, flurry Mageddon tomorrow with snow showers around. And then Groundhog Day, and we'll see. And we may get close to the freezing mark Monday and Tuesday. Some of you may get to 33, 34. If you do, don't send me a nasty email saying you said you're not going to give it a freezing. I can't rule that out. I mean, that's a few degrees. That's possible. There's a margin of error. But most of you, more than 80%, if not 90% of you, will not get to that mark. So that's who I'm talking to. We get into Tuesday night, into Wednesday. That's where temperature will be very important. This does not look to be an Arctic air scenario, by the way, with that Tuesday, Wednesday wave. So if we were to get snow to that, it would be a wet snow, which kids will love that. Now we can get into the snowman making, snowball making kind of snow. That's what that would be Tuesday. I just hope it doesn't go to rain. But if it's snow, it'll be wet snow. There's a plus. And then we get into the Arctic air with next Friday into that following weekend. Those numbers may trend colder for Super Bowl weekend as we get closer in time. The Olympics, too, start next week. So with the Olympics and another Arctic blast, I think everyone's just probably going to watch TV and watch the Olympics and the Super Bowl, obviously. So at least there's something to watch if you got to stay inside again next weekend. It's not bad. Thank goodness for TV programming lining up this way. In the summertime, it'd be awful, right? It'd be nothing on but reruns. Okay, everyone seems good. Seems good. All right. March Madness. Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, we're going to leave it at that. I just want to give you guys an update. Being a Friday, I love to do long-term stuff on Friday. Just be careful traveling, especially in southern Kentucky. Those of you who are getting the snow now, be careful. The next few hours, it's almost out of your hair. About lunch, it should be out of your hair. And then it'll be all of our turns here coming up for tomorrow. Gusty snow showers, just a real cold, blustery, snowy kind of day, nothing big. Sunday will be a sunny day. Monday is our flurry day. Tuesday, we just see what happens. Tuesday night, Wednesday, if that handshake happens of those two waves or not, who knows? If we see more evidence on that, I don't be surprised if we flag that an alert day if we feel like this signal is holding true several runs in a row on the data, that there's going to be something passing through that has potential. We'll likely flag it, and if it falls apart, we'll take it down. But I think the heads up may be needed soon on that. And then we'll get into the Arctic wave a week from today that may have some light snow again. And we'll just take these one at a time. But at least we're trying to get a little closer to get above freezing. We're trying. There's several opportunities that keep trying to get there, but we keep getting knocked down again, as you guys know. And as Chumbawamba song. You remember Chumbawamba, right? That's a 90s thing. Anyway, I won't sing it. I'm not going to do it. Okay, I'll leave it at that. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourselves. See you guys coming up on midday at 11 a.m., everybody. Have a good weekend.